Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Yud Aleph in Yevamos. Freilich informed to everybody as we learn for Shlomo ben Rachel, Yosef Asriel ben Chaim Michal, and Elazar ben Reuma. Yesterday we got down halfway down the page on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph Itmar, right smack in the middle of the page. Itmar Habal Yevama Bo Achet Alach. We know that Yibum, as we've discussed, one brother dies with no children. The other brother is supposed to make Yibum or Chalitza. Let's say there were several brothers. Let's say Reuven died and there was Shimon and Levi. Okay, if Shimon performs Yibum, what is Levi supposed to do? Let's say there's another wife. Let's say Reuven was married, he had two wives. Rachel and Leah were both married to Reuven. He dies. Shimon marries Leah. Can Levi marry Rachel? No, you only do it once. There's only one Yibum, one Chalitza. So let's say, so Shimon married Leah. And then Levi decided, I also want to do Yibum. I'm going to marry the Tsar. I'm going to marry the other one. That's forbidden. But what is the Yisr? Chad says the second one's Karis. Why? He goes like Rish Lakish. It's only an essay. What does that say? The pasuk says you're supposed to build one bias. As Rashi explains, bias echadu bona veina bona beis bottom. You're only supposed to do it once. If you did it a second time, if the second Yibum was performed effectively, you're over on an assay. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. So, but if the first one holds, like we hold, that you're really chayiv. Now, not that we necessarily hold that way, but the first one holds that you're chayiv kares because it's eish zachav shlov makam mitzvah. Mandam or b'kares, one holds kares krish lakish yosef krish lakish, meaning krish lakish says that we said yesterday that one brother and the surviving brother and the widow, they're not doing the shlichus of all the other brothers and the other co-wives. He's just doing his own thing. It's doing a mitzvah of Yibum. Lav shlichus to Achim Kavod. Hilkachuni the koyal of Asay. He's the one who's chayiv on Asay. Aval Achim kedakaime kaime. The other brothers stay with an Isser Eishasach. So the one who holds your chayiv kares, you know why? Because there's basically an Isser here. You're not allowed to marry your brother's wife, right? If your brother's dead or alive, if there was children, or if your brother divorced his wife, you can never marry his wife. She's forbidden forever. Except there's a special heter for Yibum, right? So, okay, Shimon married one of the wives, and the rest of it is also as if as if he had children. That's Rish Lakish's opinion. So Habal Yavama Charam Bakaris. That's what Charam Ba'asa wants only I say. Mandam Bakaris, Rish Lakish, Mandam Rasei Rabbi Yochanan. Michael, it's going to happen. I told you. I know it's going to happen. All right. Sorry. Completely Baravach Ravina. Charam Bakaris v'Charam Ba'asei. Mandam Bakaris Rish Lakish. The one who holds that Bakaris is like I explained that the mitzvah was done, and now that's it. The Shimon performed Yibum on Leah. Anybody else who marries any of the other co-wives, say Shach mitzvah. He goes like Rabbi Yochanan. That what? Like we pass like Rabbi Yochanan. What? That each one is doing the shlichus of the other ones. In other words, that Iu shlichus of Achim kavod. V'chiyech tzara b'asei la'achim b'asei b'achim nami haviyasei. In other words, if let's say Shimon marries one of the wives, Leah, right? Marries one of the wives. He performed Yibum. Let's say he wants to marry another wife there too. Okay, it's so it's only an assay. He says he's doing the shlichus for everybody else. Rashi says, so that's the shail over here. Of course, Yibum and Chalitza is only supposed to be done once. One Chalitza does it for everybody. One Yibum person for everybody. But if another brother did Yibum or Chalitza afterwards, would be meaningless. Chalitza would be almost meaningless. But if he did Yibum, we'd be over an Asay, be over a Karis. I knew halacha. Sora sota asura. Let's say a woman is a sota. Let's understand something. When we talk about sota, the whole story with the drinking, that's what we really call a suffix sota. What does that mean? She's suspected of committing adultery. That's a sota, right? She's suspected. He warned her. She went and she secluded herself with somebody, and people saw that. They didn't see the actual act. If you saw the act, then that's called a sota bada, and for sure it's us, and for sure she's forbidden to be married to her husband. So in a case where it's for sure a sota, there were Adam who saw the act take place, right? Amrav Yudam Sarah sota asura. The sota herself, let's say a man's wife committed adultery, they were Adam, and then he heard about it and he died of shock, right? He died of shock. There were no children. Does there yibum? Is there yibum? No yibum. Why? Because she's called tameh like an erva. Once she committed real adultery, Adam saw it. That's it. There's no yibum. What about her co-wife, the one who didn't commit adultery? So Rabbi Rav Sarah Sota Asura. It's also Asur. Asur means there's no yibum, there's no chalitza. Why? Tuma ksiv bakarayis. It says tuma. Pasuk says over there, the nistra v'hidat ma. Okay, so she doesn't. There's no yibum chalitza. Neither for the tzara either, because she's the tzara effectively of an erva. She's like the tzara, like the 15 cases we had in the Mishnah. Master Rav Chisda, Rav Shimon says this. Let's make this happen. A story happened. A man went overseas, and reports came back that he was killed. And when she went to court, then she had one witness who saw it, but she checked it, and that's what they said. And Bezin says you can get remarried. She got remarried, and a terrible tragedy happened. He came back. Original husband came back. So luck is she's supposed to not marry either one of them. However, just not married to either one of them. However, let's say now who is she really married to? She's only married to one person. She's really married to the original one, right? Because the second one was unfortunately it was adultery, but by accident. It wasn't her fault. She went to Bezdin, and they said you can marry. You can. So if Shimon, what happens if he dies now? What do you do? The first husband, the second husband is not a husband. It's really adultery. But if the first husband died, what do you do? Right? Okay. Maybe it is. We'll check it out. Let's see. Maybe it is. Okay. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe it's some noise there. Okay. Sorry. All right. So let's say the first husband dies. First husband dies now with no children, right? The first one after he showed up, he died. He found out that she had lived with somebody else, and he died. So the Tanakh over there says the brothers of each one, they both give her chalitza. Second one's probably just to be otze, the chalitza, like people should think there's no question of yibum over here. Give her chalitza. Rav Shimon says no, you can actually marry a biyaso chilatza. In other words, she didn't really commit a terrible sin. She went to court, and the court allowed her to get remarried. Made a mistake. It was a terrible accident. So what do? There's still yibum. So Rav Shimon says biyaso chilatza me'echav shel rishon or me'achiv shel rishon potera sarasa, but you can perform yibum or on the tzara or on the original yavama. And even the Rabbanan say the original Yavama don't, but you still need chalitza from the brothers, right? You still need the Yavama herself shouldn't, but you would still need chalitza on one of them. So that's machlok. But what do you see over here? That he said before, we started by saying that Sarah Sota Asura, meaning that not only the Sota, if she really committed adultery, not only is there no yibum there, but the Sarah also not. Here it's mashma that you do have bia or even chalitza. You do yibum or chalitza. I'm talking about a sota d'oraisa. I told her, what does it mean a sota d'oraisa? Where she actually committed adultery. There were eight that he saw it. This isn't really a sota. This woman went to court and she said, there's reports that my husband died. I have one witness, and she checked it out, and the court says, yes, you're allowed to get remarried. That's not really a sota. It's only sota rabbanan. So what are you asking me from there? There, of course, if the first husband died now, you would get chalitza at least, and according to Shimon, even do yibum. But don't tell me a case from there. That's not the what was your havmina? Suffer called the takan rabbanan kain daraisa takan. He figured that even though the rabbanan made a takana that calls her a sota, right? The rabbanan, according to the Tanakam, according to the rabbanan over there, you should only do chalitza, not yibum. According to Shimon, you can even do yibum, but you'd think that they made it like a daraisa, meaning, says Rashi, that v'tzarasa asura achanami avi asura havay asura banan sar miyibum u'mitzar chalitza. I would think also that you would need chalitza and not do even. If they make a takana, Rav is only talking about a sota daraisa, where it says tuma, right? She actually committed adultery. So he says the one who asked the kasha, so called her in daraisa takan be sota daraisa. The Rabbana would have said that the tzara the Rabbanan in this case should also need chalitza. That's what he thought originally. Now it's another kasha again. So Rav is saying when there were Adam who saw her commit adultery, 2 Adam saw it. There's no yibum, and then the husband died. No yibum, no chalitza. What about this case? This is a classic sota. What is a sota? When we talk about a sota, we really mean, like I said, a suffix sota. If 2 Adam saw it, there's no drinking, there's no procedure. That's it. She has to get, if there's Adam and Asra, you kill her. But if there's not, at least she can't marry her husband anymore. She can't stay married to her husband. But the classic case is, we're not sure. She was just suspicion. What happened? After the husband warned her, so she went into with this quote, a suspected adulterer. She went with him into seclusion, into a room. The Shah said, when they were there long enough to have bia. Asur labei. So in that case, she's what we call a sota, which really means a suffix sota. She can't marry her. She can't stay with her husband until it gets resolved, right? Until she drinks. Asur labei. Asur lechel b'trum. If she's going, she can't eat trum anymore. The imes. What happens if he dies now? Choletzes v'lomis yabemes. She gets chalitza. We're not sure really. She's the suffix sota. She gets chalitza. So what do you see? You get chalitza. Not that there's no yibam at all or no chalitza. Love this. Again, same thing. I'm talking about a sota vadai, where there were Adam that saw her commit adultery. You're talking about a suffix, which is the classic sota. When we talk about a sota, the whole procedure is a suffix. You're talking about a suffix. So Maisha vadai. Why shouldn't the sota vadai have yibam? My time shouldn't the sibba tuma, because it says over there vinistra b'tuma. So say sota suffix also nami tumik sibbe. The classic case is talking about, it says that tuma the time Rav Yosef and keeper omer. Listen to this carefully. Yosef and omer mishum Rav Blazer hamasegu shaso. Listen, now we're going into a different direction. Now sota masegu. What's a masegu shaso? Reuben is married to Leah, divorces her. She goes and marries Yankel, right? And then Yankel dies or divorces her. Can she remarry Reuven? He's not a Kohen. No, that's called Machzor Mishaso. See, Rav Yosef ben Kippur says, if she was married to Yankel, to the second guy, right? Fully married, then Asura, then she can't go back to her first husband. But Mina Erison, now Erison means really, Harayim Kodesh sleep with the ring and you need get afterwards. That's Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur Shita. She's allowed to go back. If she only had Erison, she didn't consummate the marriage to the second. She only had Erison to the second guy. She can go back to the first guy after this guy dies or divorce. If the second guy dies or divorces her. So Asura Mena Erison Muteres Mishum Shnema Achrei Shehutama. It says over there, right? Asura Mena Erison Muteres. Why does he say only Mena Asuin? Because it says Achrei Asher Tuma. It says Lo Yuchal Bala Harishon. Right, Lashuv Lakachta, Asha Shilcha, after she became Tameh, so to speak, after she was defiled by the second guy. Defiled means consummated, right? Not just Erison. That's Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur Shita. No, Chum say that's not the halacha. Achazu Asura. Whether she just had Erison to the second guy or full Nisuin, she can't go back to the first guy anymore. Elamani Makayim Achrei. So what is Mashrei Chatuma? Achrei Asher Hu Tama'a. What is that lashon of Tuma? LaRabba Sota Shenistra. The Rabbanan say that pasuk, even though the parsha speaking of Maseg Rushaso is speaking about a Sota Shenistra, that she also can't go back to her husband. So what do you see over here? It's Mashma Sota Nistra. Even though we say over here we don't know for sure. Mani Makayim Achrei Tuma. Sota Shenistra, if a Sota went into seclusion, she also can't go back to her first husband. That's what we're speaking about over here. Even though the Parshas Mashma Shasa, the Rabbanan say, Acharei Ashidma is speaking about a Sota. So the Gemara says, so it's mashma, that even if she was just Nistara, it's a suffix. So that's what the Kash is. What's the difference in a Sota Vadai? Because it says Tuma. By suffix Tuma, by Sota suffix also it says Tuma because it says Acharei Asher Hu Tama. Even though that's the parsha of Masig Rushasa, that's what it's speaking about. The Rabbanan say that's speaking really about the Sota. Says the Gemara, my Nistra Nivla. Now in our Gemaras it says Umay Nistra, right? Umay, like a vav. But really the vav should be taken out, say the Mefarshim. It really means that's the answer. What does Nistra mean? Nivala, if she really had bia with the person. So again, only a Sota Vadai is put from Yivam and Chalitza. Right, and her tzara also, because she's mamish like an erva. She's like your sister, erva. But a suffix, not right. My nistra nivla. So that's what it means. If she for sure committed adultery, then there's no. That's what we're speaking about over there. That if she's a vadai tome, then he can't take her back. He can't take her back even if she's a suffix, right? If she's a suffix sota until it gets resolved. But Acharei Asher Hu Tama is telling me that if she was very Tomei, it never takes it back. Micro Nistra, why is it called Nistra? Lishna Ba'al Yanakat. It's a nice lesson of saying when it's seclusion, but it really means Nivala. The Gemara says Nivala, Tuma Behedik Sibek. If she had Bia, then that's, we already know that. The Pasuk says, V'nistra V'hidat Ma. The pasuk is if she was really tamei, you can't marry her anymore. So what are you getting to sing Acharei Asher Tuma that it says by Masech Ushas refers to Sota? What is it teaching me? That even if she actually had Bia, I already said Vinister Vahinit Ma, if she was really coming, she can't marry him anymore. What does it mean? Here it is. The Rabbanan say that when it says Lo Yuchal Bala Rishon Shekal, it means that there's a losa say also to take her back. There's a losa say to take her back. Once she actually had bia, not only is she forbidden, but there's also a losa say. Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur, la basota, he doesn't know the basota, there's no la. Even if she committed adultery in my time, in this parsha it says you divorce her, Reuben divorced her, and she goes and marries Yankel, right? She goes and marries Yankel, and it says that means she was married to him. Means she was married to the other guy. So we're not talking about. So Rav Yosef ben Kippur says this whole parsha is speaking of Machzir B'Shas Mishanissus. We're not talking about Sot over there. Sot is a woman who's married to one guy and she committed adultery with another guy. This is what the parsha not speaking about that. But the Rabbanan say no. The words Acharei Shutama is speaking about that if she actually had bia with another guy, actually had it. There's a lav not to take her back. Not that he's not allowed to take her back ever again. In other words, according to Rav Shapiro, it's not a lav. It's usher, but it's not a lav. Not get malchus. Right? Okay, so that's so what did we set over? We said over here that if you shifra committed adultery for sure, now there's no yibum, not on her, not on the tzara. If it's only a suffix, right? What happened? We don't know. She went in. Well, you're supposed to drink. If she refuses to drink, then he's got to divorce her. But let's say he dies and she hasn't drunk yet. We don't know what's happened. Get chalitza. Going to review as long as we're in the top Machzir B'Shas, the Gemara goes into another question. What about Machzir B'Shas and Mishanissus? This happens. A man divorces his wife. She goes and marries somebody else. By the way, it's only if she marries somebody else. If she had relationships with a million people, unfortunately, terrible thing. But she can come back to the first guy. It's only if he marries her, right? We have a machlokas with Rav Kippur. Rav Kippur says that only if he fully marries her, right? But the Chum say no. Whether it's Erison or Kedushin to the second, Erison or Nesuin to the second guy, the first guy can't take her back anymore. Okay, so Rav Yehuda asked Rav Sheshet this question. Let's say he took her back.
But if she has, in the case where she has bia after he divorces her.
Yes, with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, he could take her back. He could take her back. It's only if she marries him. That's what he says. Havaya. It says Havaya the Isha. So you have to be married to the second guy. That's forbidden. That's forbidden. But you should always marry. You're always supposed to wait 3 months period of time between any marriage and another marriage. That's for Havchanas Zera. That's a good question. Somebody asked me about that recently, and I said that's what you're supposed to do. But if somebody does, today they have ways to find out, with DNA and all that, whose kid it is. But the reason you're supposed to wait 3 months is to know whose kid it is. But in those days when they didn't have that kind of stuff, so you have to wait 3 months. Presumably, you're supposed to wait 3 months today too. Wait till the body's cold if the guy died. At least wait for that. But after a divorce, let's say, where it wasn't, it's supposed to wait 3 months no matter what between any two. Let's say he took her back anyway. Not supposed to. Reuven divorced his wife. She went and married Yankel. Yankel died or divorced her. She was available again. He's not a Kohen. There's no Kohen here. And he's not supposed to. It's a lot. Okay, get Malchus for it. No different than a Kohen marrying a Grusha today. If he marries her, not supposed to, but it's a lav. Kids aren't mamzerim. It's only a lav. We don't like Rabbi Kiva. So let's say and then he died. He died. So Rasamahu. Now, what would you say? If he died, would she perform yibum would there be yibum with his brother? He's not supposed to marry her, right? So we'll see that you shouldn't do. But what about her tzara? What about there was another wife? He took this wife back, not supposed to, and he dies. And there was another wife there too, the tzara. So what do you say? Pardon? They were busy, right? So Machzir B'Shas Mishanissus Umei Sarasa Mahu, right? Sarasa Mahu. What's the lachas? I'll leave it at Yosef ben Kippur. Oh, you just talk about Yosef ben Kippur. Loti Boilach. There's no question. Even on Yosef ben Kippur, Tuma Machzir B'Shas Hudach. It says Tumay. If it says, he says when it says Achrei Tuma we just had before, is not speaking about not like the Chum say it's speaking about Sota. It says Achrei Tuma. If she married somebody else, she's Tamei. Hudach Sarasa Kamosa. If she's Tamei, that's like an erva. She can't marry the Tzara either. She's Tamei. She's like an erva. I might say it says toevahi. It's disgusting. It's an abomination to take back this woman. Like you married her, then she married somebody else, and you're taking her back. Like that's considered disgusting. Toevahi, only she and not the Sarah. Maybe the Sarah you're allowed to. No, you could learn he toeva ve'ein boneh toivin. If she had daughters, her daughters aren't abominations. They can marry, let's say, a Kohen or somebody like that. Maybe Hatzarasa toeva. Maybe yes, it is. So according to Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur, you certainly can't marry the tzara. That's what Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur sheet. You can marry the tzara. She's a toeva, and the tzara is too. She's like an erva. The Rabbanan. Remember the Rabbanan? They said Tumah is going on Sota, not on Machzagush also. So Afagav Rabbanan Tumah Besota, even though they said that Tumah is going on the Sota, not on the Machzagush also. But the pasuk in the parsha speaking about Machzagush also. So is it Tameh also? Oh, Dilma, keeping the Yakarka? No. Once we say that the pasuk of Achreya Shehu Tamah is going on Sota, it doesn't apply to Machzagush, and it's not Tameh, and therefore you could marry the Tzara. You could perform Yibam on the Tzara. Some say the question is the other way around. According to Rabbanan, there's no question. Keeping this Akar. Once they say that the words Tuma is not going on Machzagush, it's going on Sota, so there's no Tuma over here. Yes, you performed the lav, right? You did a sin, but there's still a mitzvah of Yibam. Kiti boilach aliba du Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur. The question is according to Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur. Afagav Yosef ben Kippur tum machzagushasa who receive, even though he said that the tum is speaking of machzagushasa and not on sota, but ni rachmana. Still, you could say it says he toeva. She is an abomination. But the co-wife, maybe you would perform even over there. The co-wife of the machzagushasa mishnah maybe a darshan this way. She's an abomination, but her children are not. Maybe it is. That's our question. So yes, this question, right? Rabbi Yehuda asks Kasha Rav Sheshis, and then he died with no children. What's the halacha about marrying the tzara? The assumption is you can't marry the Machzagush, but the woman herself. But what about the tzara? Amalei says, let me prove it from here. Let's say a man had man's brother died, Reuben died, and he left two wives. Okay, left two wives. Leah and a tzara. Okay, so let's say it says over there, let's say one of them was kasher, achas psula, and one was psula. If you're going to do chalitza, might as well do chalitza on one who's already pasul. And if you're going to do yibum, you could do it even on the kshera. Now, my kshera, what do you mean by kshera? Kshera alma. It's not like kshera to marry a kohen. She's not a grusha, let's say, right? And psula alma, where she is a grusha. So even if he's not a kohen himself, if a man has a choice, he has two women that he could perform. You can only do yibum on one, as we learned. We started off today, right? You can only do yibum on one. According to if you make yibum on both, it's an asay. According to Rish Lakish, it's kares, but you only do yibum on one. So which one? He has a choice over here. He has Leah and the tzara. So it says over there, if one of them's kosher, one's puzzle. If you're going to marry the kosher. If you're going to give chalitza to the puzzle one. So what do we mean puzzle and kosher? Do we mean if she's a grusha or not? What do you care? You're not a kohen. If you're not a kohen, what do you care if she's a grusha or not a grusha? You can marry him either way. My nafkalamina. Elav kshera leib psul. So you know what it means? Kosher to him and psul to him. Meaning, is it machzagushasa mishanisas? And that's the point. That machzagushasa mishanisas. So mind you, machzagushasa. That what? The machzagushasa, she herself, she's the puzzle one, the one who actually he took back after she was married to somebody else. And the one who's kosher is the one who's not a machzagushasa. She's the tzara. So you see over here, you could be miyabim the tzara, right? If you're going to give chalitza, so give chalitza to the one machzagushasa. If you're going to give yibam, you can even give yibam to the tzara. Let's say he wants to. Yeah, he could, but let's say he wants to marry her. Could he marry her or not? The question is, can you do yibam? He can say yibam too, so it's more low. So we're talking about not kosher, not a machzagushasa mishnah over here. That case is not a case. That case with the two wives, one was already divorced from a previous marriage, right? She was divorced and she's married to this brother Reuben, and the other one was not a grusha. So you have two wives over here, right? You could two women fell, two shemeres yavams fell to the Reuben died with two wives. One wife had previously been divorced; she can't marry a kohen. The other one was not divorced before and could marry a kohen. So it says over there, listen, if you're going to do yibum, you could do yibum to either one, right? You could do yibum even to the kosher one, the one who's not a grusha. But if you're going to do chalitza, give it to the grusha. You know why? I said, what do you care? What's the difference? If I want to give chalitza, why did you say give chalitza to the puzzle one? Why? Give chalitza to either one. What difference does it make?
Not a difference to you, but it's a difference to others.
Others, exactly. Remember Yosef, Kanshan Rebbe. This is where Rebbe, on this case, Rebbe learned this halacha. You're about to pour out your dirty water, but somebody else could use it. Don't pour it out. Meaning this, you're about to give chalitza, right? But somebody else could use it, right? So don't, in other words, you're going to give yibum, you're going to give chalitza. If you're going to give chalitza, don't give it to the one who's not a grusha, because now you're forbidding her from marrying a Kohen. Because a Kohen can't marry a chalutza, just like you can't marry a grusha and a raisa, you can't marry a chalutza and a rabbana. The rabbi said a chalutza is not asur min Torah, but the rabbi said chalutza is like a grusha. So the rabbi said that a chalutza also can't marry a Kohen. So if you're going to give chalitza already to the one who's already a grusha. That's what it means. Why ruin another girl? And that's not for you. It doesn't make any difference. If you want to marry either one of them, right? Marry either one of them. But we're not talking about a case of machzor so it doesn't apply to our case at all. So that's what he's talking about. Just telling you that if you're going to give, you have a choice of two women. One's already a grusha, one's not. If you're going to give chalitza, give it to the grusha already. Why ruin two women instead of one? Tashma. Another proof. Says, oh, you took your wife back. That's our case. You took your wife back after she was married to somebody else. They both get chalitza. So you don't give chalitza to two. What do you mean he b'tzarasa? Elema ohi otzarasa. Oh, either her or her tzara gets chalitza. Smashman, not yibum. That's our answer. The Gemara says, it didn't make sense anyway. You said it said he b'tzarasa choletzes. That's not true. You don't give chalitza to two people. So you have to explain it. You have to explain it away anyway. So why give an answer and say it means he otzarasa? You could answer this way: Tritzaki he choletzes. If you're going to give chalitza, if you're going to give her as far as the machzor so the brother the surviving brother gives her chalitza. So rasa o chalitza, but the tzara might even be able to get yibam. In other words, our question: the machzor so the one he took back, the wife that went to somebody else and came back. And now this guy died with no children. She for sure doesn't do yibam. If you're going to give chalitza, you can give chalitza to her. You can't give her yibam. But the tzara, we don't know about that. That's our question. Get chalitza, maybe she can even get yibam. She hasn't done anything wrong. Amar Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, boy, he asked the questions, a similar question. He asked a little bit differently. So that's the same question, but we're going to see different versions. He said like this. Rabbi Yochanan asked this question. What's the halach of the tzara? Again, our case. You took your wife back, and now you die with no children. Can the tzara marry your brothers? Amalei, or one of your brothers. Amalei, Ravami, why don't you ask about her herself? Right? Herself, no question. Damrina kavachomer. But mutala asura, but also kolshtein. The one who her husband, who she was originally mutter to, she's now asur, right? Because once she married somebody else, the husband who died now he can't marry. The one who she was mutter to originally, he can't marry her. So the brother-in-law, the one who's the surviving brother now, the yavam, certainly who is asur to her till now, lo kolshtein. If the husband that she was originally allowed to marry, and now he took her back when he's not allowed to marry her, if she was mutter to him originally, she's asur to him now, the one she was always asur to, because as long as she was married to Reuben, she was always asur to Shimon, his brother, lo kolshtein surely asur. So here for sure you can't make you. He can be boy like Saras. I'm only asking about the Sarah. Me olam kavachomer lemedchet tzara. Is this kavachomer enough also to push away the tzara, that there's no yibum on the tzara either, only chalitza? Oh, lo. In other words, it seems obvious you need at least chalitza over here because as the dochalosa say, she'ein bokaris, right? You need at least chalitza. But the question is, can you perform yibum on the tzara or not? So Rav Nachman Yitzchak Masni, he learned the kash a little bit differently. He said the kash is this way. What about her herself? Amalei Ravami. Why don't you ask about the tzara? Says Tzaras lo can be boile. Delom kavachomer lemedchet tzara. On the tzara, I have no question. Kavachomer is not good enough to push away the tzara. The tzara you could perform even on. Eliki can be boile. He goofed. The question is about he herself. Me own kavachomer makom mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to perform yibam, but there's a kavachomer forbidding it because he said if for the one who was mutter to the original husband it's asur, for the one who's asur to certainly now. Olo, or do you say not? So it seems the gist of all this is that for the tzara you could perform yibam. That was the question Amalei. So he answered him the same way. In other words, the question was asked the same way, but it was asked over here two different ways. Two different versions. Is the question on the tzara? We're not sure if you can perform yibam. The second way was no, on the tzara you could for sure perform yibam. The question is on the woman herself. Amalei, so he said again, this proved the same case we had before. A regular case. A man died. Reuben died. He had two wives. One was let's say a grusha, one was not. One was a kasha, one was pasul. If you get a chalitza, it's a psula. Again, my kshir, my psul. Again, is it an issue of kohen? Is she a grusha or not? Since he can marry her, he's not a kohen. What does he care? Elav kshera means kosher to him, meaning she's not a machzor b'shasa minister. She's a tzara, a regular tzara, who's not a machzor b'shasa. Psula because umayni a machzor b'shasa. So that's what we're assuming. Same kasha we had before. Isn't this a case of machzor b'shasa ministers? If you want to make, you can make him to the kosher to the tzara, proving that you could marry the tzara. Versus no, like we said before, the same thing we said before. Look, we're not talking about machzor b'shasa ministers. This is a case of a grusha. One wife was a grusha, previously a grusha, or not. Since you can marry, what do you care? You can marry, what do you care if she's a grusha or not? You're not a kohen. Rav Yosef, Rabbi here, Rabbi learned, don't pour out the dirty water if somebody else. In other words, don't pour. You're giving chalitza, you're getting rid of these two women by giving chalitza to one of them. So don't give chalitza to the kosher one because you're going to forbid her from marrying a kohen. But it's nothing to do with machzor b'shasa. So we still don't have a proof. Now the Gemara is getting another proof, the same one we had before. Tashma, a machzor b'shasa mishnah he v'tzarasa choletzes. Her and it's our both get chalitza. He v'tzarasa. You don't give chalitza to two. Elema ohi otzarasa. Either her or the tzara get chalitza. Mashma no yibam. This is more balatrusik commentaries. Didn't you already give an answer? You had to explain it anyway because it doesn't make sense to say he v'tzarasa choletzes. It means this or that. So learn it this way. Tritzachi the choletzes sarasa o choletzes o misyabemes. Amrav Lili. So again, at the end of the day, what do we see? That if machzor b'shasa says you need yibam or chalitza because it's esed chalosa say, right? So if it's the machzor b'shasa herself that your brother wasn't supposed to take back, and now he died, God killed him, whatever, he died. So then the brother of Shimon should give chalitza to her. But if there's a tzara, it seems that she could even make yibam. That seems to be the gist here. Amrav Lili bar mama omar ukvam shmu. Listen to this. Tzaras mama enes asura. What's a mian? Mian is if he had kedushin rabbanan on a girl who's less than 12 years old, either the father's dead or he had married her off once before, and now the mother or the brother's married her. It's a kedushin rabbanan, and she could walk away up until the age of 12. She doesn't even need a get. It's like the marriage is annulled. You married off an 8-year-old girl to somebody, and she could walk. Pardon? She's kosher, right? She's kosher, right? It's like she's maybe no longer a virgin. A kohen gadol could marry her, but she's kosher. She's not divorced or anything like that. So Amar Shmuel, what about now? Let's say she fell yibam. A man died, and he had two wives, a 20-year-old and an 8-year-old girl, right? And so the 20-year-old is she's the tzara, and the other one walked away. The other was a katana, and now the little girl said, "Now I was married to this guy. Now I got to marry the brother. I refuse." Right? Tzaras menas asura. So now we're saying the 20-year-old also you can't marry. It's like Marshus Laman. If it's to the other brothers, what do you mean? Hashtahi gufashari. She could make mian on one brother and marry another brother because the mian annuls the wedding, right? So hashtahi gufashari. Damar Shmuel mian abazem muteres. But she can marry. So sarasmi boy, why shouldn't the tsar be able to marry one of the brothers? In other words, if this little girl says, "I don't want to marry Shimon," right? So can Leah marry Levi or Yehuda? Why not? Why do you say she can't? So that's me, boy. Even the girl herself, she can say, "I don't want Shimon. I'm walking away, and I can marry a Levi." Me, boy. Ella the D-Day means what? Right. So if it means that what? Hasha he go for shari damar shmuel mi and abazem boy. Ella the D-Day. It doesn't mean that she gave mian to one of the brothers, to one of the Yavama. Ella she gave mian to him. So Maisha menace the shari la the achim the law of the Maisa. Why is the menace allowed to marry the brothers? Because she didn't do anything to them. She didn't perform any act on them, any chalitza or any mian. She didn't do any act on them. A mian is like an act of refusal. So Tsaranami loved them. She didn't do anything wrong. The answer is Gzeir Mishum Saras Bita. You're right. Technically, the 20-year-old could marry the other ones, right? But why is it also? It's a Gzeir means you have to do chalitza. Gzeir Mishum Saras Bita menace because it looks like the tzara of your daughter. How can you tzara be your daughter? In the first case in the Mishnah, a man, Reuben is married to Shimon's daughter, and Reuben dies with no children, right? And what's the halacha over there? Shimon can't marry his own daughter. And not only that, if Reuben had a co-wife, Sarah doesn't marry her either. So we say this looks like that. That's not also. If his daughter was Shimon's daughter was married to Reuben, if she performed mian on Reuben before Reuben died, then Shimon could perform Yibum on the Tzara. It's only if Reuven died and he was married to both Shimon's daughter, right, with Shimon's daughter, and another wife. Only then is it usher. But Tzaras Bito Manas Miasir, Batan Kulan in Mesu. Our Mishnah said the first one, Omeso Omiano, Tzara same the Tzaras are mutter. The Mina Mahu Shivek Minilim, the Mina Babal, Hainu Grusha. She refers to Baal while he was alive, the same as Grusha. And as if Reuven was married to Shimon's daughter and Reuven died, then Shimon can't marry his own daughter, can't marry the co-wife. But let's say Reuven divorced his wife before. Let's say Reuven divorced her before, divorced Shimon's daughter, then he could. So if it means Elaine the Mina Babal, Sahainu Grusha, Elalav B'Yavam must mean that after Reuven died, she performed Yibum. And you see over there, if they made Mion, then you're allowed to marry. You're allowed to make Yibum on the Tzaras as low. Lo'olam Babal. It really means on the Baal. But Trey Gavnik, there's two kinds of gerushin. One is regular divorce, one is Mion. That's what we're speaking about over there. Umayshta Kamina Baal Dakrinal and Suin. Well, I understand if she made Mion on the husband, it uproots, it annuls the whole wedding. Kimina B'Yavam Nami Nasuin Kamoy Kraka. When she made Mion on the Yavam, we're saying over here, if she made Mion on the Yavam, the other one's also why. If she made Mion on her original husband, it annuls the original wedding, and you could perform Yibum on the Tzara. So if you made Yibum on the, if you made Mion on the Yavam, why not? If you made Mion on the husband, Muteris love, she could even marry his father because it annuls the wedding. It's like they were never married. The Yavam Asur Lava, but if she made Mion on the Yavam, she can't marry the father. Why? His father, her father-in-law. Alma Mishas Nafil Niras Kakala. So, well, you know why? Because when she fell Yibum, it appears like his daughter-in-law, and therefore you shouldn't do it. It looks like Tzaras Bito. That's why. It's a strange thing over here. We're saying that if you made Mion on the Yavam, not you made Mion on the original husband before he died, but after the husband died, she made Yibum on the brother. The Tzaras should. Why? Because it looks so. You need chalitza, right? Because it looks like Tzaras Bito matters. It looks like Tzaras Bito because if your own daughter made Mion on your brother before he died, that's okay. You can marry the co-wife. But if after your brother died, you made Mion, it looks like it's his daughter. It looks like his daughter or daughter-in-law in the case of the father, and therefore it doesn't look good. One more line. Marvasi Tzaras Islandus Asura. An island is a woman who can't have children. She has no female characteristics or no feminine characteristics, and she can have children. There's no Yibum on a case like that. She's like an erva. Why? Because the Pascha Sher Tele, the whole purpose is to have children, and the children she can't. So Ravasi, what about her Tzara? That's also Tzaras Island is also Asura. There's Asura mean there's no Yibum no Chalitza. Shenemer V'Haya B'Chora Sher Tele Prat Ayin Sheniel Letters. Therefore, she's like an erva, and therefore the Tzara is also like a Tzaras erva. Tomorrow's Gemara Shabbos stuff will start from Masav Rav Sheshes. Try to get over here because for some reason 15 years ago, it started from here on Shabbos' Daf. So I'm sorry for rushing, but we had to get to there. And on Sunday, we'll pick it up from the two dots near the top of Sunday's Daf. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, Purim Sameach L'Kulam.